act brave before you are. And it is so hard for particularly so many women to step up and to speak out. I cannot tell you how many times this happens where, especially I do it at book signings or when I have speeches from, around the country, and all these women will be there, and I'll put out my hand and I'll say, tell me about yourself. And it would break your heart to watch how many women struggle with what to say about themselves. And my favorite, because they often say, well, I'm just this, or my favorite was, I'm just an emergency room doctor. Myself, we think about that. How hard it is. And a lot of times they'll tell me about their husbands first. And especially, there's no place this happens more than in Washington. When I first started dating Sherry, he was in the House. And I would meet women and tell them, ask them about themselves. They start telling me about their husband's districts and what kind of race they were going to have. So it's really important to encourage women to speak out. And the best way you can do that is by speaking out. And by asking women to tell their stories. Because I understand the theme today is the importance of storytelling, why it matters so much that you tell your stories. And another thing I'll really clue you in on that I've learned as a columnist. When I first started writing my column in 2002, after years of wanting it and not getting it, and one editor after another saying I didn't have it in me, my editor, Stuart Warner, gave me some very good advice. I said, I don't know how much it should be about politics first, how much I should go into the social justice stuff, how much should I go into the wages issues, and he neatly stopped me and he said, all that's important, but you have got to write personal stories too. You've got to tell some personal stories about your own life. Because even if they disagree with you on everything imaginable, if they like how you are about your family, if they like how you feel about single parenting, because I was a single mom for a lot of years, if you're willing to talk about these issues that really matter and that you come from the working class, that was the first in my family to go to college. Do you know how many conservatives hate that they love me because we have the same background? It really matters to share your stories. And it's not helpful if we take a superior arm's length view of how we're going to educate other people on the issues. And it's okay to admit to ambivalence. We don't all agree on all the issues around choice in this room. There's wiggle room here. And it's really important to acknowledge that, because we don't get anywhere. If you have to agree with everything before I can be your friend, I'm going to be a very lonely person in the world. So I want to encourage you, though, to think about your stories. And I want to end, before we open the floor, with a story that I like to tell. Because, at least now I can get through it usually without getting real emotional, because, well, first let me explain a little bit about why this matters to me. When my daughter and I was a single mom for 11 years. My daughter Caitlin and I were living home. My son had already grown. And our personal phone number ended with the numbers 1920. And that was deliberate on my part. That's the year women got the vote. And I remember I would always tell my daughter, now Kate, when somebody calls or when you have to give your phone number, you should tell them that that's the year that women got the vote. And she said, oh yeah, Mom, I'm going to do that. But I remember when she was 15, and one night she was ordering a pizza, and I was standing in the kitchen, and I was making a salad, and it was at a home we rented in Shaker Heights, and so I had a direct view of her. She's on the phone, she's giving our phone number, she takes one look at me and she says, that's the year women got the vote. And then I hear her say, you didn't know that? She says, how old are you? And she says, are you registered to vote? And I went to think and I went, yes! So yes, I really am that obnoxious mother. And I always laugh when I encourage young women to tell their stories and to speak up, because I think of my daughter at 16 when we were really going head to head. She's 22 now. And she said, you're the one who taught me to speak my mind. You're the one who told me to step up for myself. And I said, not with me. Take it out there, sister. But the reason it matters so much to me that you're here today, that we are women who are activists, and I hope that this is only the beginning of your activism at any age still. There is so many places where we need women's voices. I look at these women legislators, and I'm telling you, my heart aches with gratitude. Because I know what a difference it makes when we have more women in elected bodies, and so do you. I also know there are women in this room who are saying, yeah, I could never do that. The White House Project will tell you how often, how men tend to run for office? This is such a guy thing. They see something and think, well, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. Women so often wait until someone turns to them and says, you've been great leading this nonprofit organization. You were great at our temple with the annual benefit. Have you ever thought of running for county commissioner? Have you ever thought of running for that open seat on city council? You all know somebody, some woman who should be thinking about running for office. And many of you in this room should be considering it. And I said this recently to a group of businesswomen in Cleveland, and one of the younger women raised her hand. She said, I'd really love to do this. I've given a lot of thought, but I'm so afraid of what it would do to my children. I said, well, here's what I'd tell you. Our children recognize our fears as much as our courage. They will model what they see the most of, especially our daughters. And I talk about Sharon's two daughters. Some of you know our Elizabeth, who works for the speaker. And Elizabeth loves to tell a story how she was mugged at a parade. Not quite, but somebody came and took away her candy when she was marching for her dad when she was 6. Okay, that was bad. That was a bad story. But I look at the activism of these two young women now. Emily, who is an SEIU organizer here in Columbus, and Elizabeth, who is working for the speaker now in Columbus. We have all 4 of our kids in Ohio. We are doing the Happy Feet dance every